The Cold Omaha Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Procedurally Generated. I'm Henry Bell, and joining me today are Tom Schreier and Brandon Bowling. This week we're going to be covering the upcoming Overwatch custom game update, some DRM troubles for Denuvo, Gamestop's Circle of Life drama, and a whole lot more. But first, I want to get things started with what we've been playing this week. Tom, Brandon, how are you guys doing?
Doing well. Solid.
Oh, doing good. I'll be honest, I'm kind of bumming. This drought is starting to get to me a little bit. I could use like a new AAA title to get into now that sort of the grace period for Resident Evil is ending.
Do you either guys play through The Witcher?
No. Well, I mean, all the way? No. I played probably like 15 hours, I think.
I played 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're really like hurting for a game right now, I feel like this would be like the right time to play it.
Yeah.
Just to get through it.
I'll be honest though, I'm not like I'm hurt. What I'm hurting for isn't a game. What I'm hurting for is an elusive thing that only spoiled PC gamers can really appreciate, I think, which is I have about 30 games that I could play right now, but none of them's grabbing me. Like, I need to be, like, inspired. I need to be hit with, like, I need to watch, like, somebody playing Fallout 4 and go, oh, shit, I need to do, like, a full playthrough of this now. You know what I mean? Like, do you guys ever get that way? I get, like, kind of mopey sometimes when I'm almost spoiled for choice, where it's just like, yeah, I could play Killing Floor, or I could play, you know, Shadow Warrior 2, or I could play Titanfall 2, or maybe I want to play GTA 5 online, or, you know, I have so many options, and there's so many games that I haven't completed, but I'm not really willing to, I'm not really in the mood to, like, force myself to get into them, you know? I'm sure I would get into them after 10 plus hours or whatever, but sometimes that first hump is just a real pain in the ass.
Oh, you mean like me right now?
Yeah, Brandon knows how I feel. Tom, have you ever had this issue?
Yeah, I haven't, and probably part of it is, like, I use this time to catch up on all the games I wanted to be through by the end of the year. I mean, I wish I was into my second, you know, Dishonored playthrough.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can play Overwatch for hours and not, like, think about anything else. But I haven't had this issue, although I think you guys play at higher volume. And it seems like you guys really touch on all the new releases and then kind of come back to them. And is that fair?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
and I think
actually, yeah,
that might have might be part of the problem, though, is that we basically play just long enough for the shine to wear off the apple. And then, you know, if we want to go back, we can have an apple. But, I mean, geez.
It's just a fucking apple, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And so the real issue is more that, like, maybe
I want the pineapple upside down cake, bro.
It doesn't feel fresh anymore, you know? Like, there's fresh content towards the end or whatever, but it's like when DLC that requires you have beaten the game already comes out for a game you've beaten and uninstalled, and you don't have the saves anymore. You're like, that is a bunch of new content, and it'd probably be fun to play through, but do I want to reinvest, you know, however much time it takes me to get to that point? It's like the Bozak Horde DLC for Dying Light.
A little trivia for that example is Dying Light, I believe.
Yeah, actually, just now, yeah, exactly. That's what I was just saying. I've actually played through Dying Light, I think, 3 times, but I've gotten new computers in between, and I just picked up the Bozak Horde on the winter sale, the Dying Light Enhanced Edition with the Bozak Horde DLC, and I still haven't tried out. I think I've maybe driven in the car for like 5 minutes or something, because I went way too low level on when I had previously tried to do it, and every time I do it, I'll play Dying Light for like a day and a half, and then I just get bored and play something else. I never get far enough into it to actually check out that new content.
Are new games not released at this time because they're worried about getting, like, lost in the wash when people do Game of the Year and, you know, kind of accolades like that?
Not really. Traditionally, this has more to do with international, or not international, but rather general sales policies. The beginning of the year tends to be a time when a lot of people are not spending money and stuff, and a lot of the people are budgeting and all that. So I think what
everybody's like, oh god, I spent too much on Christmas this year. I think I'm gonna have to cut it low January and February.
Exactly. And so I think that the real thing is it's the same kind of reason that there's a lull of movies in January, February.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but honestly, it's changing, I think, for the better lately. I mean, look at stuff like Resident Evil 7. Even if they are just games that have been delayed past the holidays, like, I think that developers are realizing now that the time of year matters a lot less than your window where you're the only big game of your type out. I mean, imagine if Resident Evil 7 had come out at the same time as 4 other horror games, and you'd see why Titanfall 2 got shafted.
Sure.
Anyways, though, let's bring it back a bit, because we have quite a bit of news this week, and let's dive into what we've been playing here. I wanted to just really quick talk a little bit about something that's half news, half what I've been playing. And that is, I reinstalled Fallout 4 so I could check out the new PC HD texture pack we discussed last week. All 54 gigabytes of it. Jesus.
I thought it was 58, but still.
Maybe.
We're at a point where it's bigger than GTA 5 with all its updates.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, though, it is kind of a bit underwhelming, I'll be honest. I brought Brandon over to check it out with me, and we couldn't really tell if it was enabled or not.
Yeah, we spent 15 minutes staring at walls.
Yeah, because I kept walking up to walls and stuff because that's the best way to see if like high resolution textures have been applied is you look at like what would normally be heavily compressed textures and see if they look decent. And we were looking at like these concrete barriers and the walls of parking areas and stuff, parking garages and stuff, and they still looked pretty bad. I mean, they didn't look terrible. They were not great looking. It was still typical open world where they're saving on resources by not bothering to have HD, pebbles or whatever. But I looked up some comparison videos. I actually had to go online to see if I needed to do some additional steps to turn it on. That's how little I was able to tell. I don't know. I'll be honest. As someone who went from the old Ultra to the new Ultra, I feel like mods already do it way better and make more of a difference because they enhance the visuals. Like they make changes to style and stuff like that, or coloration, and so it's a little more.
Like your color gambits change as well as high texture mods, which really can like completely change the game.
I'll tell you this: I believe they're uncompressed textures. I don't believe that they're 4K.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that one because even like the branches, like the small shrubs and stuff, like are still 2D.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. Exactly. I pointed that out to you like first thing when we walked out of a sewer. I was like, check it out. They didn't make the 2D bushes look any better. That's for sure. Which, if you guys don't know, I may have just ruined foliage and Elder Scrolls games for you.
Forever.
Well, look on the bright side. It's only stuff that you can't interact with.
That's true.
But yeah, it was honestly kind of a bummer. I was thinking it was going to maybe kick off a whole new playthrough of Fallout 4 for me, and honestly, it really just kind of disappointed me, and I was like, I'll come back another time, I guess.
Yes, that's another thing, too, because they were ramping up about, you're going to need a new 1080, FTW edition, or you're going to melt your computer's brains.
Yeah,
just like,
my 980 with an i5 ran it on all Ultra at 60. So I don't know what the deal is. I know people hedge their bets with system requirements, but Jesus, that makes them just useless when they're that far off. I mean, I'm an entire generation below them, and I don't meet the processor requirements.
But then again, at the same time, like I feel like they've been doing that a lot because, like, I haven't seen the 1080 referenced in any
it makes
settings in the last year.
I don't like
not
that.
Last year.
No, you see it a lot. Actually, I see the 1080 quite a bit, and that's my concern. Is that sometimes I don't wonder if they're not trying to push hardware. Like it's like, Jesus,
I see the 980,
you do not need a 1080. Like fuck.
Yes, I see the 1080 all the time. I don't see anything about the 980.
Right, and so it's like it's the new benchmark for some reason. Even though like less powerful cards can totally run these games. Like I don't know. Like I certainly don't have 5 gigs of. I don't think I have 5 gigs of VRAM.
You should have, I think, 6.
Oh, maybe I do then. I don't know. It just seems really odd to me that I didn't meet half the requirements, but it ran totally fine.
Yeah, your only bottleneck is your CPU, but even then, that's like.
But it wasn't bottlenecking.
Yeah, I know.
That's the whole thing. I mean, I will say my load times did increase pretty heavily. I'm guessing if I was running off of an SSD, that would have helped quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm totally spoiled there, so I can't even tell you. I've never had a HDD in my computer experience.
Yeah, my load times were pretty bad. I'd say a minute and a half almost.
My load times, I blink and the thing's running.
Probably a minute. I think it just felt long because I'm not used to load times. But yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. If you've been waiting to pick up Fallout 4 till it had uncompressed textures, God knows why, this would not be the reason to pick it up. It's a nice little perk, I guess, since it's totally free. So there's no
If
reason
you have the
not to
drive
at least
space
check it
for
out.
it.
Yeah, but 54 gigs isn't that. I mean, it's 2017, man. You don't have a terabyte drive in your system. Get with it. You know, I don't know.
That's a tenth of your drive space if you're running a terabyte hard drive.
It's a 20th, but
20th.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 1,000. Yeah.
And even then, that's technically lowballing it because that's not the exact number of megabytes in a gig. But anyways, point being, this was pretty disappointing. And as a massive, you know, Elder Scrolls and Fallout fan, like, this was not the oh my god Bethesda finally figured out how to make really good looking textures. This was more, yeah, I probably should have known better.
Oh, the disappointment.
It happens. You know, it is what it is, but I would definitely say if you are a PC gamer, like I said, who has been waiting to pick it up, and or someone who was going to reinstall it just for that, but you'd have to uninstall some other stuff to make room that you may be conflicted about, probably hold off. I'm going to wait for my next playthrough. Just going to,
like, the mod Nexus, I think it was.
No,
there's a bunch of texture packs.
I wouldn't even recommend that, honestly. I'd recommend that people hold off on Fallout 4 if they've already played it a fair amount until the Skyrim script extender gets finished, because they still haven't finished that till the updated script extender gets finished. Anyways, though, whatever. I'm just kind of bummed about that one. Let's move on to something else before I get too negative. Brandon, tell us about what you've been playing this week.
So I've been kind of slow on the games uptake. I've just been playing since I'm in like this weird lull. I'm just like, I'll just play some Red Out. So I didn't even include the other game I played, which was more Forza, because it's literally, I did a really cool jump and landed on somebody's head. That was probably the best highlight.
Nice.
In Red Out, I've been playing that. They've been updating it substantially. It's running better and better every time. For an indie title, that's very well cared for, I must admit. Like, I'm kind of impressed, because that's probably the first indie title I really put money into. I talked way back about the cockpit mode, and it's basically, I talked about it a while. Red Out's basically a anti-gravity racing game. So, like Wipeout, Pod, stuff like that.
F-Zero.
Yeah, F-Zero. This is the only game of this type that I've played in cockpit mode, and it really does draw you in. Because this is one of the few games that has environmental effects included in the pod racing. So you're running at high speed, like blaring through sandstorms. And it looked good when you were in third person, because it really showcases the map. But in first person, suddenly they seem more real. And then whenever you're hitting,
water and stuff splash up on the screen and that kind of thing.
It's literally like, oh god, there's a cloud of smoke. Was there a fire? Oh no, this is sand. I can't see nearly as well as I did 5 minutes ago.
That's cool.
Initially, that's not a big deal, because like in Forza, like you're in a snowstorm, you're like, oh, this is crazy. But you're also going like 80 miles per hour. Whereas in this game, you're doing like 1,500. And
right.
You feel like you're doing 1,500 miles per hour. So you're just like, oh, if I twitch, I am going to die.
Does this game have...
That's how you feel.
Do you know if this game has VR support? Do you think that's what that's for?
I think so, because it definitely has VR support. If you look on the Steam page, it is Red Out VR. And that I know for a fact.
Sure.
The initial launch of the VR support for this game did not impress me. But at the same time, it's very hard to critique VR when you don't have a VR headset. So I didn't place my opinions on it personally. And I'm gonna just say that the video I saw of it didn't look too good, but they've steadily improved it. And for the cost, I think it's a pretty good VR experience. But then again, VR is still what I would define as in its infancy. So there's only one game I saw. It was like a zombie fighter game that really did do VR, at least in my experience, at least in my view, was really good.
Nice.
And Red Out, unfortunately, doesn't really hit the nail on the head net.
Yeah, I was actually reading, I think for at least a little while, I don't know if it's back now, they actually may have removed the cockpit mode for VR just because I think some people were having sickness or something.
Yeah, it's but if you're playing just on a standard screen, it looks great. I feel like the VR initially was tacked on, and the developers really want to do something with it, but it's just not quite there yet. People are investing heavily into VR, but game developers are still kind of playing the safe zone because they still have to cater to players.
I agree, but I think it's getting better. I mean, look at stuff like Resident Evil 7. Like, that may be our first, like, proper VR game that is not just a tech demo. Like, I think we're finally breaking away from that a little bit. We're finally seeing some, like, real AAA adoption of VR technology that's not just, we have a mini game that you can play.
That's one of the reasons why I'm super happy about Resident Evil is the
Yeah.
fact that it's not mainstream yet. Like VR is not mainstream yet, but this is a big step in the right direction for
Definitely.
it.
I think horror is one of the genres that it's going to be the best in,
Yeah. They were playing around with a couple of indie titles with VR a year or two back that were very immersive, even though like they were like 8-bit graphics. Like it obviously would look like a indie game.
In VR, everything is immersive.
Yeah, and that blew people's socks off. Like actually, like it was pretty nuts. And then you have Resident Evil, which is a AAA title with great graphics to boot, a well-optimized system for VR that's not making everybody sick making the vast majority of people not sick who use it. And on top of that, a very scary experience. This is a type of game that if you have an extra $600 or $700 to drop on a Vive, or even the what's the other one called again?
Oculus.
Oculus, yeah. If you can, splurge on the Oculus or a Vive, like this game is actually worth it.
I wonder how it is on the PSVR because I assume it has that as well.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably similar. I don't know what the output would be like in terms of horsepower for that, but
Sure.
I think it would be good because
Tom,
the nice thing about that is that it's running on a standardized system. So if they can pull it off, it'll be pulled off well for everybody.
Well, I don't know about that, but it'll at least work. I was actually going to say, though, Tom, have you gotten a chance to get your hands on PSVR yet?
No, I haven't. I know our former colleague, I guess, Max has one, but haven't been over to his place while he's had it, unfortunately.
Sure. You'll have to check it out. You're a resident console expert. Let us know how it is.
Yeah, I'm considering it as well. Actually, I was thinking about trading in my PS4 for the Pro and then getting the VR with it as well, just so that when you finally, double down and get the Vive or the Oculus, like we'll have two competitive options.
Fair enough. Although then we can't play VR multiplayer, dude.
The correct word you're looking for is bro, good sir.
Guy, friend, buddy. Anyways, though, yeah. Anything else you wanted to talk about Redout before we get too far off track here?
No. The only thing is that if you're into racing games and you haven't tried an indie game out, definitely pick this one up. It's definitely worth the buy. Maybe not so much for VR, but definitely for just standard screen gaming.
Hell yeah,
a good game.
Nice. So, Tom, you've been kind of quiet today. What kind of games you been playing?
Yeah, I haven't had a ton of time. I've pretty much been dedicating mostly to Dishonored, and I'm on the final level. Of course, I won't tell too much more about it.
Still?
Yeah, first playthrough. I was kind of saying in the introduction, I wish I was a little bit farther along. But
sure.
The one observation I have is that the first game did have a great storyline, and I knew kind of going into this that I've been saying all along it's kind of more about the environment. The one downside is I think, I do want to play a more high chaos playthrough. Right now I'm playing no powers, low chaos.
Sure.
Which is a weird way to start. But I feel like, unless something really happens in this last level, I don't know if I'll feel the same consequences. It worked the other way around for me where I played high chaos the first time in Dishonored 1 and then low chaos in the second time, and it was really rewarding. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how I did the first one too. So that's kind of an interesting point because I kind of feel the same way. I didn't get nearly as far as you, obviously, but I don't know that I would have played all the way through the first Dishonored again if I hadn't felt like, oh, fuck you giving me that ending. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that was a big part of it. I think the other thing was the impact you were having on Emily, knowing that she was someone who's going to take a position of power, and just your relationship with her made that meaningful.
Sure.
That you wanted to be reflected in a good light.
Right, exactly, because you're trying to set a good example or whatever.
Yeah, you're a father figure.
Yeah, so I don't know what the obviously because I haven't played through it twice, but I don't know what changes really. Maybe more enemies, but if it's really that simple, it's not going to be the same feeling, because if anything, playing in a high chaos playthrough with a whole bunch of powers, I want them to throw the kitchen sink at me.
Well, to be fair, remember...
Do you really want the kitchen sink, though?
Well, no, but remember, difficulty is scaled based on your chaos level. So if you are playing high chaos, then it should be harder, at least in terms of, patrols and stuff.
No, I agree. And from a gameplay standpoint, I completely am on board with that. I'm more saying when I was playing the first game, there was almost kind of this regret I had that I was like, well, okay, now we have way more rats and there's way more like messed up stuff, and Emily is not being influenced the right way. So
you just don't know that you'll feel the same like empathy for the game that you felt before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure some developers listening and being like, "Who's this idiot? He's gonna get, he's gonna be had in the second playthrough." But
yeah, maybe. But then again, like, I mean, that was like one of the biggest complaints that we as a podcast had about the game was that the story was not super compelling.
Yeah, so again, if anything, I'll play it a second round out of curiosity, A, to just use powers, especially Emily's new ones, but B, kind of just like what are the consequences going to be?
Definitely.
Of doing this, yeah.
Sweet. But yeah, so nice. I have also been playing one other game I wanted to touch on here really quick, which is Killing Floor 2. I picked it up. You guys know I've had it for a while, and I come and go from it. I mostly play it solo, which kind of prevents me from getting too far into it, although a patch that came out recently may have changed that. I'm not sure exactly when this went live, but they've patched in a bunch of like cross-class guns. So we've talked about this very briefly when I was first talking about Killing Floor, but the way the game works is they have what are called perks, but are essentially classes. There's like Demolitionist, Firebug, Sharpshooter, support, medic, that kind of thing. And each of them has like you have a Counter-Strike style gun purchasing system within the game, but the guns that will level up the perk you're playing are limited to guns that are like for that perk. So for example, support gets experience for fighting with shotguns. Sharpshooter gets experience for rifles, that kind of thing. SWAT gets experience for SMGs, that kind of thing. And so what they did is they found a bunch of stuff that was like pegged to other classes but technically fit into other categories. Like for example, there was a pretty nice auto pistol with a red dot sight that the medic can use, but the gunslinger, which is the dual-wielding pistols class, could not get experience from using, even though it was a pistol. So what they did is they made it so a bunch of the weapons that were only for certain classes now cross over to multiple classes, which gives you a lot more options as far as like choosing your loadout, but also gives you a lot more options as far as like trying to level characters, which goes hand in hand with the fact that they seem to have increased the speed of leveling, which is really, really important in Killing Floor because you get flat percentage like buffs from your level.
Oh.
Yeah, so like you get flat, like you'll get like decreased recoil and stuff like that early on, and then at like I think it's like ranks 5, 10, 15, and 20 or something like that, you get to choose between two perks. And I think the one I have on my marksman right now is like increased hipfire accuracy and headshot damage or something, which is really nice. And my alternative I think is like you can aim down sights while sprinting. So pretty cool.
That's pretty.
I mean, there are some really cool perks and classes. They also added in a new tropical themed map, and I think there may be one or two new guns, though I cannot confirm or deny that because I didn't see them, but I had heard that there were. So yeah, if you are interested in the ongoing development of this early access game, Killing Floor 2, I'd recommend maybe taking a peek now, considering it's becoming more accessible, especially if you're a single-player guy who's kind of been holding off. I feel like this new patch is very single-player friendly as far as both the monotony of gun selection goes and also as far as like actually being able to get a reasonable amount of experience for your classes without doing, very hard difficulty with really good players. Definitely.
Cool.
I should jump into that because I do actually own that game.
It's really quite good. Like I really enjoy it, but again, it's the kind of thing that most people would only want to play with friends. It's only me that has this weird Sisyphusian complex of insisting on playing multiplayer only games single player.
Jeez.
I'm the guy who like beats Left 4 Dead on single player and is like, yeah. Because I never have.
True.
Well, it's frustrating because I tend to come kind of late to these things or kind of early to them, and very rarely do I have my friends playing it at the exact same time as me. Usually they've either already put all their time into it, or like in this case, it's early access, so nobody really has it except for Brandon. Which you're supposed to do pre-mids of 4 is the problem.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same reason that it's kind of hard to field a full Overwatch team, like you were saying last week, Tom.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyways, though, that's really all I had to say about Killing Floor 2. I just wanted to touch on that new update.
I have a quick question, actually, for Tom. Have you ever done a 6v6? Have you ever done a full team?
No, I was saying, I think earlier that I really like this Capture the Rooster mode. And the problem is, I mean, you definitely want to have teams because you get more of the, A, if you have a really good team, you can roll through and get all the rewards. But B, you get the extra experience too.
Is that additive? Is that if you have more people on a team, do you get more bonus experience, or is it just the flat 50% for playing with any friends?
No, yeah, and in fact, if it's just me and Wags, you get the 20%. That's
or
exactly
sorry,
it.
It's 20%, right?
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, that is one like really big downfall of that game. There's got to be a system in place where you can have 4 people and still like get a game pretty quickly. But
yeah, I mean, think about it like this: it's a balance thing. How shitty would it be if you were just solo queuing and you came up against a 4-person pre-made?
But I think that's how it happens.
Well, that's how it shouldn't happen, though. That's why you have the longer queue times, is they do try to match you with other pre-mades, because it's really only fair. Even if only 4 of you are on mic, that's still a pretty marked advantage over a bunch of randoms.
Yeah, although I guess if I'm that game, you're really trying to encourage collaboration. So I don't know. I mean, I see both sides of the argument. I've been of the impression though, as playing as a single, like, solo in it, like we've played against teams that are, have multiple people.
Well, that's probably because you are the 1 or 2 people who's not part of the other half of your team that's the pre-made.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like, you may not realize that there's 4 friends playing together on a Ventrilo server.
Okay.
Like
yeah,
on,
so
like,
I don't know. My point, I guess, being is that I really like a lot of things about Overwatch. That sucks because you're 2 people away from just having a team that can steamroll people, basically. But
definitely. Well, I don't want to bury the lead here or anything, but we will be talking about just that when we do get to the news section here. But I want to save that for then. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Nice. Still liking the Capture the Rooster mode and everything. Any new sweet tips for anybody?
Yeah, no, I wish I haven't logged a lot of time into that. Really, it's been like a lot of Dishonored for me. But
sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm trying to think of anything really constructive I can offer with that. I'm going to throw like Hearthstone in the same boat. Like, I don't have anything new to say, but I am still playing it, and I do definitely recommend it for people who are looking for a game like that.
Me too, man. I just made a Jade Golem Shaman deck. Fuck, I love that deck meta. It's so fun. If you guys don't know, Jade Golems are like maybe the most Magic the Gathering style card I've seen in Hearthstone so far. Every Jade Golem you play is 1/1 bigger than the last one you played. It's such a fun mechanic.
I like it. I've mostly used it in, it's probably the Druid.
I have a Druid, a Rogue, and a Shaman Jade Golem deck, and I think my favorite's actually my Shaman, but Druid is definitely second.
What's the advantage of playing it with Rogue?
Well, Rogue has Jade Golem specific cards, like class cards and stuff.
Okay.
And I think the biggest thing is Gang Up. Because do you know the card Gang Up?
Oh, yeah.
You shuffle 3 copies of a creature on your shuffle 3 copies of a creature on the battlefield into your library, and so you do that on like a Jade Spirit, and suddenly you have another 3 Jade Golems coming.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
It's kind of like that you came to the wrong neighborhood motherfucker feel to it.
Yes. Exactly. And I think there might be also have you not seen the Jade Shurikens? They're like it's a deal 2 damage to target minion combo, deal 2 damage and put a Jade Golem into play. That's pretty good too, especially because it doesn't actually deal 2 damage. It deals 1 damage twice, which means like 1/1s with Divine Shield and stuff get 1 shot by it.
That's funny.
Yeah, so Rogue is definitely the worst of the 3, but I was just putting together Jade Golem decks because I'm kind of obsessed with that deck type. That and dragons.
It's interesting how you have phases, because I remember when you were going through that Cthulhu phase.
The Cthulhu even,
Cthulhu.
but yes, he but that was a little different. That was more like, oh my god, you guys, I got a legendary. But now I'm spoiled because I binged over the holiday and picked up so many cards that like my collection is pretty solid, so I can actually do some of the metas that require more like powerful or rare cards.
I would say, I don't know if you have these cards, but if you have Jiraxis and whatever the demon is that allows you to drop all your demons from your hand onto the board.
I don't have Jiraxis at all, and I'm not sure what that demon is.
It's a 9/9. It's like an Unchained something.
It's something the Unchained. Anyways, go on.
That completely changes a Warlock. Like I have a couple Warlock decks. I have a Cthulhu because you can get to it quick, although it's not as good as my Druid one. I have a Murloc deck, which is just like the most ridiculous deck. Like I don't know how it works, but it works. I have the little, what's the guy who throws like 5 legendaries into your deck? Malkazar, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, it's Cruel the Unshackled.
Cruel the Unshackled. So I have this weird Murloc deck that then I just ramp up on like all these legendaries.
Just so our listeners know, just really quick, he's a 9-mana, 7/9 demon with the battle cry, if your deck has no duplicates, summon all demons from your hand.
Yeah, so if you can put that and Jiraxis in the same deck, basically all you do is you put like Pit Lord and I can't remember the one. There's one like a 3/1 1-mana card that deals 3 damage to your hero. You can have the Succubus that like has 5 attack, 4 attack, or low mana. You can have all those in your hand and they don't cost anything, so it doesn't hurt your hero, doesn't burn a card. And literally you just have this guy, you drop that guy, and then if you drop this one that creates demons for you, you can just like freaking wreck people. It's so fun. But you have to have those 2 cards, 2 legendaries, which are tough to get in order to make that deck work.
For sure. I actually saw what may be the most ridiculous Hearthstone combo I've seen yet in one of my matches recently, which you guys can actually check out on my YouTube channel, lesser.noob. Subtle plug.
Nice.
But it was a really good match, a real nail-biter, and during the final turn, my opponent, who I was beating pretty soundly but was clearing everything as I was playing it, so I couldn't get that last couple points of damage up, comboed... I can't remember the name of the card. The Murloc spell that puts, I think it's summons 4 1/1 Murlocs.
Yeah, that's a Shaman card.
He played it twice, back to back, then played 2 Anyfins Can Happen the same turn, which is all Murlocs you control get +2/+2.
Well,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or sorry,
yeah.
not Anyfin Can Happen. It's Every Fin is Awesome. That's what that one is.
Yeah.
And he dropped 2 of them because they give your minions +2/+2, but they cost 1 less for each Murloc you control. So suddenly he had a full board of 5/5s and could do like 40 damage.
I would.
And I still won, you guys.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Watch it on YouTube.
Watch the episode. It's a really good one.
I was gonna say the Shaman Murloc deck is pretty good. My favorite is Paladin because
really?
Paladin has Paladin has that Everything is Awesome.
Yeah.
Whatever the opposite one was.
You're talking about yeah.
Yeah, so with that deck, it's really like chancy, but if you can get whatever it's a 1-mana card that allows you to switch your hero power.
Yeah, you're talking about Sir Murgleton.
Yeah.
Sir Finley Murgleton.
Which you can get in, it's in the adventure mode. It's like the Reno Jackson.
Yeah, and he's in the first, if I remember right, he's in the very first wing as well.
That sounds about right. And so, anyways, you can, if I can get the Warlock hero power with Paladin cards, it's like I literally cannot lose. But you're gambling that you get that hero power.
We need to play a match sometime, Tom. We'll see
about
I know. That.
We'll see, but I do.
Maybe we can record a special episode and throw it up on the Cold Omaha website and my channel.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know. I mean, that deck I like a lot because if you get the right sequence, you can literally drop all the power up guys plus your charge guys, and then once those guys are all dead, you can drop that card where you get 7 Murlocs back. And
summon. Anything can happen. 10 mana, summon 7 Murlocs that died this game. Although I don't see anywhere that this is a Paladin only card. I think this is any class.
Oh, is it? I should drop it in my Shaman deck then. I was pretty certain I think it's Paladin only though. I could be wrong though.
Regular anything can happen is obtained ×2 by defeating Giant Finn, the second boss in League of Explorers.
Well,
you're right. I stand corrected. It is a rare Paladin spell. Look at you.
Yeah.
I'm super wrong.
If that was in my Shaman deck, the Shaman deck would be just stupid. But
I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of that card. It seems a little situational, but I'm guessing when you are just rolling Murlocs out for days, like, you'll always have 7 when you have 10 mana.
This is getting so in the weeds, but like if you want to use it right, you have to drop all the power-up guys first.
Right, exactly. Because you want to give all your, like, then when they come back, everything is like +7/+7 bullshit.
Because, there's a Paladin. It's really useful, but it has to be used right. There's a Paladin card that you can drop that turns your hero power into, instead of putting little soldiers out there, you put little Murlocs out there. And that's really useful for certain combinations, but you don't want to use that right away because otherwise you'll just get these 1/1 guys, 7 of these 1/1 guys that are worthless. So
honestly, I'm kind of surprised you haven't gotten excuse me, sorry. I'm surprised you haven't gotten the card that isn't there a card that changes your hero power to summon a 1/1 Murloc?
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I thought you were saying there's one that lets you change your hero power to another class's hero power.
So I have both of those in my deck.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood.
Yeah,
that's pretty slick. Okay, fair enough. Plus, Sir Finley is a Murloc.
Yeah. No, I mean that deck is so fun. Like that, my Druid Cthulhu. I'm trying to think. I have a handful. I have the Murloc Association deck. If you throw a couple good cards in there, it's a basic deck. But if you like modify it just a little bit,
they're Murlocs. We get it. Take it easy. It's like it's a deck
Murloc.
that plays itself. It's the number one easiest to play deck type.
By the way, the scariest deck you can ever play is like the Paladin Dragon. If you just have a shit ton of dragons, it's so hard to beat that person.
I was just gonna tell you that when we play, I'm gonna play my Dragon Priest.
Do you have the dragon where you can drop like all you like? I think it's a Death Rattle, but you can drop all the dragons from your hand.
Yes, but that card is garbage.
Oh, is it not good? I thought it'd be like the Warlock. We are so in the weeds with Hearthstone. No.
It's all about you don't want that kind of thing. You want consistency with the dragon deck, and you need early game stuff especially. Like no. I do not believe in 10 mana cards if I can help it. The one exception is I think in my Dragon Mage deck I have a Malagos for the spell power.
Okay, I don't
run like any cards over 8 mana for the most part.
The one dragon I really like for the Murloc decks, because you can play this thing called a Curator, and what it does is it draws a beast, a Murloc, and a dragon.
Yep.
And so you drop that down, and then the Murloc doesn't matter. The beast I have it's inspire. It's a 5 mana card that every time you inspire, it gives 2/2, I think, to every card on the every minion on the board.
Mukla's Champion, I think.
Yeah, that's incredible. You can remember all these fucking cards. But then you want this like other I can't remember what it's called. It's an 8 mana dragon that every time you draw a card, you draw it twice. So that way that's just like load your
Chromagus.
Yes, and if you can get this weird combination where you have the Warlock power and you have the Curator guarding you, basically, then you just draw so many Murlocs that it's so amazing when it actually
doesn't that
happens.
actually like hurt you after a point where you're like, well, the board's full and now I have drawn 10 cards this turn? Like, do you ever have like? I feel like because the thing about Murlocs is your 1/1 takes up, like, for me, at least in my experience, the issue I've had with Murloc decks is like 5 of the slots on my field are taken up by 1/1s. But I guess since you run so many buffs.
Yeah, that's exactly. You can put the what's it called? It's like a 2/2 card that gives everything 1/1. Murloc or not? What's
Grimscale Oracle?
Okay, so you can do that. You can do the War Leader, Murloc War Leader. You can and then it's just a basic like
what's that Cloud Singer or whatever dude who gives like 2/3? It's horseshit.
I don't think I have that guy.
He's like I'm pretty sure it's like a Murloc with like, and he's like holding a cloud above his head.
Oh no, yeah, that's the war leader. I'm almost
okay.
certain of that.
Doesn't he
Yeah,
give
no,
like
that,
2-3?
yeah. So what you want to do is drop that guy and the Oracle right away. Have even if they kill it, then you drop the card that brings back 7 Murloc,
The 10
and
mana
usually
one.
those two. Yeah, and it just gets stupid. Like you
Yeah.
can rank up your thing. I know Murlocs are the fucking best because don't have to be good and you can win.
For sure. All right, well, I'm going to bust out my sickle and cut our way back out of these weeds here.
Yes, sorry about that.
No problem. I went right down that.
You're just going to need like a
with you.
double-edged, super thick machete, bro.
Yeah,
Because
no
I'm
kidding.
just like not following you guys. Just sitting here like, I should put myself in this conversation.
This is what happens when you play trading card games your whole life. Anyway,
I love this. Like I literally outside of Pokemon, this is my favorite like trading card game I've ever played.
it's solid. Anyways, though, let's move along because we do have a fair amount of news to discuss this week. Brandon, I think you have one more game you wanted to touch on before we go.
Yeah, this is gonna be a real quick one. We've talked about it for the last 2 weeks, so I'm sure our listeners can guess. Just pause for drum roll, and it's Titanfall 2.
Hooray!
Again.
I actually played that this week as well.
But this is going to be a really quick one because we basically the last couple of weeks covered like the vast majority of my experience. Nothing has really changed. I'm steadily improving. The one thing I do want to note is there's one like jagged flaw or bad
One
experience I've
massive
had.
flaw.
Yeah, this one flaw. Everything is great except for one thing, which is the most important thing. Is the player pool has dropped off significantly.
That's
since,
an understatement. Don't steal my thunder here, because I'm the one who played it and experienced this so hard. You guys.
What are you talking about? I've been playing it for like a month. It's just ridiculous.
No, but I reinstalled it because you've been talking you've been talking about how great it's been for you. So I reinstalled it. I jump in. 2 nights in a row, I spent over 30 minutes in queue for Amped Hardpoint with 0 other people in my region looking. And then I uninstalled the game. I'm really upset about this. This game is dead, you guys.
The only place that you're going to find gameplay where you can just jump in and out of matches is going to be attrition.
I don't like attrition. Like, fuck.
That's the game match where everybody's in it. Because I was trying to initially do PvP. I was talking about it last week. I was trying to do pilots versus pilots just to get the whole control, just the character movement down before I got into Titans.
Yeah.
Just dead.
Just
done.
It's brutal, you guys. Like, you have this. You have the ability to invite everyone in your like public lobby to the game directly before you go into the general matchmaking, but it won't fill the whole team for some reason. Like, it won't fill both teams for some reason. So then it puts you in the queue, and everyone just slowly drops out because literally no one joins. I can't tell if the player pool has dropped off or if matchmaking is 100% broken, but I could not get a single game of the game mode I wanted to play, which is a very popular game mode. That's what I don't get. Amped Hardpoint is fucking king of the hill.
So it's kind of sad. Like you have been funneled into playing that one game mode the whole time.
Yeah, and I won't play it. So I'm done. I'm pissed off. Like I'm at this point I'm actually blaming fucking the developers, man. Why the fuck or the producers? Why the fuck did you release it during that window? You killed your own game. Like, what a shame. Titanfall 2 is a solid title, but like the multiplayer is what gave it legs, and now I can only recommend it as a single-player game, which drops its value down to like $30-$40 at most. I can't recommend somebody pay $60 for a title with no active multiplayer. Are you fucking kidding me? Anyways, though, I'm going to go ahead and cut myself off here before I get any more riled up about this than I already am. Let's go ahead and take a quick break here to cool off, and we'll be right back with the news. All right, welcome back, guys. So we have quite a bit of news this week, and I'm kind of excited to get into it. Specifically, our first story is something that's pretty exciting for Tom. I don't know if you guys have been following the Overwatch developer updates as they've been coming out for the past, year or so now. But the most recent one had some very interesting announcements. Specifically that the next update is going to be featuring new custom game options as well as a server browser, which is pretty huge. Oh, also, a permanent from now on you'll be able to make, or once they roll this out, you'll be able to make private Capture the Rooster games whenever you want, Tom, even when this holiday event's over. So,
I hope it just ends up being a mode, but whatever.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what it is, but I don't know if that would work, let's be honest, because you'd have like 40 modes in a year or two.
Yep.
But fair enough. I think what's nice about the server browser, so you guys know what this is. This is like the Counter-Strike style, or, it's really hard to think of examples of it, really, because so many games now use matchmaking and stuff that you don't see a whole lot of, like, server lists.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. Do you want to give that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what it is that when you think like the very early days of like Modern Warfare and stuff like that, where you could do like private games, and it would allow you to it'd pull up like a window that has just like a list of servers, the current number of players, the ping there, the special rules, if it's like what maps are on rotation on it sometimes. Basically, it just like gives you an idea of what a server is, so you can search it out, and it'll allow you to do stuff like pull up the private server browser and type in Capture the Rooster for game type, and then it'll filter to only Capture the Rooster games, and you'll have however many are being hosted available to you, and you can just join them. And that would also allow you to roll into a server with 4 of your friends without having to be quite as worried about pre-mades.
Actually, I remember this. The one game that I remember them having this in, and this is a long time ago, was Midnight Club 2 multiplayer.
Nice.
Huh.
Yeah, it's actually a very ubiquitous thing on PC. I mean, you used to see a lot more of it, but again, increasingly you're seeing less. Another good example of something like that would be like when you're picking from Minecraft servers or something like that. Anytime you have like a server browser where it's listing a bunch of different games you can join, and like you're going in through IP and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, it's kind of surprising. I didn't even really know what it was at the time, because Midnight Club 2 had it, and I think the early Need for Speed Underground games had it for console.
It's something that I really enjoy because it's something I came up with. Like, PC games have kind of always had server browsers, and matchmaking came to them, I think, a little bit later, and like dedicated servers and stuff even later, because obviously most PCs are capable of hosting matches, so they've always kind of done it where people can host them locally and then anyone can join. And it's really nice for me. It's a real breath of fresh air to get that kind of stuff back, because you know what game could really use a server browser? All right, no, I'm not going to get all riled up again, but for real, you guys, Titanfall 2, a lot of their problems would be solved if they had a server browser, because I could actually search for amped hardpoint games and like join them mid-match or whatever.
That's because I'm sure there's games going down, just not in our region.
Right, or even more so, maybe there are games going down, but they've already started, but there are down players or whatever. Because that's the other thing about server browsers, is you can join the games usually at any time. So if someone's down a player or whatever, you can just jump in and continue playing, and then you're in the rotation. Plus, it allows making spectating and stuff a lot easier, though I don't know that Overwatch has any plans for any of that yet. But yeah, that's pretty exciting. Definitely something that will hopefully serve your needs, Tom, since it's going to both feature your second favorite holiday mode and kind of mitigate that matchmaking stuff you've been dealing with.
No, it's huge.
Are you excited? Are you?
I'm excited. I'm confused too. You explained it really well. It's just, and I understand, I think, the basics of it, but I'm easily confused.
Sure. Basically, you'll just be clicking the custom game button, and there'll probably be like a server browser button there, and you'll click that, and then it'll just list a ton of matches you can join with special rule sets or special map rotations or whatever. And
what would be super cool?
Speaking of, go ahead.
If they had all of their seasonal custom matches in that.
Well, that's the idea, I think. The Capture the Rooster is going to be in there, so I'm guessing that they're going to be rolling out the rest of them.
Yeah, like Junkenstein, and you get XP from it too, I think.
Yes, that's the other thing too, is that so new custom game options are including some really cool tweaks, like the ability to limit heroes, shut down individual abilities, make tweaks to individual abilities. I think the example that Jeff Kaplan gave was you could have a match that was Widowmaker only and had 0 cooldown on using the grappling hook, and you could have like a Spider-Man match.
Cool.
So and you can get experience from these modes too. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to mitigate that so that it doesn't allow people to just hardcore farm experience in private servers, but maybe it doesn't really matter, because experience is not the most meaningful thing in Overwatch.
Yeah.
Well,
On
yeah,
top of that, I can see so many good things coming from this as well. Like, you want to get good with a particular player, you can find a match that either has preferential or detrimental treatment to that character so that you can really boost your skills.
Definitely. It kind of reminds me of when Tom was talking about one of the first brawls they did, which was the one that had, like, I think heroes had heavily reduced cooldowns or something like that. And you were saying it was really good because it gave you the opportunity to really learn some of the skills that, like, you were more hesitant to use in real matches.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I could see a lot more of that kind of stuff, that kind of thing. And you could also do stuff like increasing health and stuff for practicing sniping or whatever. It just seems like a really fun additional option and something that the game definitely could use.
Yeah, definitely.
I am excited, you guys.
Well, it opens up like a whole nother like avenue. Like, there'll be players that play in specifically in the custom maps.
Exactly. And
you just have another community.
And as we see more and more customization options, we may even get, like, you know, spin-offs and stuff. Let's not forget that Counter-Strike and Team Fortress were both mods for the original Half-Life. So, like, point being, you know, you never know what could come from this in these custom game modes. Maybe we'll see a new type of FPS, you know. Dota was
super excited.
Dota was a mod
once. Oh, this is awesome!
Hell yeah! So yeah, that was pretty exciting. There was something that was a little less exciting, a little bit amusing to me, but also a little concerning that came out of this, which was that there's Jeff Kaplan again has been expressing some concerns about some drama going on the consoles right now. Specifically, the drama being that there are console gamers who are using peripheral mouse and keyboards to control. And he basically says this gives a marked advantage. And a lot of other players, like, you know, other console gamers, are calling people who are using mice and keyboards cheaters, even though a lot of the top players are the ones who are using them. And I can sort of see why, but then again, at the same time, I think it seems a little bit silly. It's worth noting, I think the PS4 is the only one that has native mouse and keyboard support, and even then I think you need to run it through like a special adapter to decrease the latency to make it usable, and I'm not even sure that there is a mouse and keyboard option yet for Xbox One. I don't think there is, but
they're working on it.
Yeah, it's in progress. But you know, it's a really interesting thing, because I remember for a while, like, I had trouble convincing people mouse and keyboard was a superior control method for, you know, first-person shooters and stuff like that. But now that we're seeing more and more cross-platform stuff that is, like, kind of PC first and then comes to consoles rather than the other way around, with less, like, snap-to-aim headshots and stuff a la Call of Duty, it's really interesting.
Red Faction, actually.
It's really interesting that people would consider it, like, cheating.
Except, I guess for someone like me, I want to play casually and still have a chance to win. So,
maybe you should
it's the wrong way.
Maybe you should just get a mouse and keyboard.
Another thing to note too is, like, this isn't exactly.
Let one sec, Brandon. Tom's barely getting a word in edgeways in this convo. Let him talk for a sec.
I think of that Family Guy. Never mind. Point being is,
Jesus.
The point being is, like, I can't, like, sit on a couch and use a mouse and keyboard. Like, the controller just fits in your hands nicely.
I mean, you could, but you're saying you wouldn't feel as comfortable doing it. Fair enough.
Yeah, you feel. I mean, I think for someone who's serious, you know, you're hunched over it, and that's all good and well.
Take it easy with the hunched over. You could also just, you know, have a table in front of you. Like, it's not that crazy of an idea.
There's also peripherals.
Maybe you have, like, those dinner trays or whatever, the unfoldable ones, or maybe you have a coffee table. Like, you're gonna be, like, sitting on the floor with your mouse and keyboard.
Henry, you're so 90s. Bro, you're so
90s. Well, sure. No, fair point. I'm just saying, like, I like to. You can imagine me playing games, right? I'm sitting back.
Yeah, but that's the thing that I find so interesting about it is that, like, so do you think it's unfair? Because here's the thing. I understand saying, like, oh, you know, I find it more comfortable to play with a controller. But, like, what then? Where do you draw the line at that? Do you think that it's unfair if other players are playing with third-party controllers that have additional buttons, or like an Xbox Pro controller? Do you think that's unfair? Do you think that stuff with macros is unfair? Like, where do you draw the line?
I would say you should use equipment manufactured by Microsoft or Sony.
I don't
Well,
want to cause you any trouble, but I don't want to be that guy. But Microsoft and Sony both make mice and keyboards.
Well, right, but I mean,
and Sony, I think, actually has an official mouse and keyboard for the PlayStation.
Yeah, or whatever. I mean, again, I think this is more just like, if you're going to use a mouse and keyboard, use a PC. I guess that's my take there.
Well,
I mean,
why? I mean, what if, let's say that I'm a console gamer. Why shouldn't I be allowed to use a mouse and keyboard? Like, let's say I can't get a PC. I mean, not everybody can just get a PC, you know?
Can you get a PC at Xbox price point?
Not that can play Overwatch really well. I mean,
Yeah,
you probably could, actually. You probably could. But maybe all your friends play on console. Why should you have to play on PC? Maybe you like playing on console because, you know, you have, like, an established community there or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes less to, like, do I want to regulate this? No. And is there a way to? Probably not.
Well,
it's more for me, it's more just, like, my preference is, like, just use a controller. I mean, I guess that's kind of where
the greater issue that a lot of people like you may not be considering, and that is that these are the same hooks. What Jeff Kaplan has said is he wants to shut down this peripheral support, but these programs, these things, the hooks that are used for mouse and keyboard, are also what are used for custom disabled gamer devices. So
I saw that in the article, and I guess that's why I brought up the price point thing. I think that's the strongest argument, is if you're trying to play economically but have a disability. I can understand that completely.
Well, how about I don't think that you have the right to say that just because you're on console, you should use a controller. I don't think that money or anything else should be relevant. I mean, like, why shouldn't someone be able to use a controller, like, objectively, and not just in the sense that you don't want to have to try that hard, which is what it sounds like. You're saying basically, like, I'm trying to play casually, and so everyone else should be playing casually.
No, that's entirely what I'm saying.
So do you have maybe a less, like, personal opinion response to it? Like, do you think that people should be, let's say, banned for using a mouse and keyboard? Let's say they're not disabled, and it's just a gamer who wants to use a mouse and keyboard. He plays a lot of Overwatch. He paid $70 or $60 for it. He played with everybody else with the controller for a while, and then he found that he's actually not very good with controllers. In fact, he finds a controller to handicap him compared to the average player. Maybe handicap is a poor choice of words. He finds a controller to actually like let's say you're like me and you just have dumb hands and you just can't use controllers. Like, doesn't that give you the marked advantage?
Yeah, sure. I guess my point is if it's seen as that big of an advantage, why don't you put that in a separate player pool? Literally, because you're using like different equipment.
Well, because you can't detect it.
And so I don't know how you regulate it. I feel this is just like, I think if you're a competitive gamer, use a mouse and keyboard. I think that's my conclusion.
I know I would. I'll be honest though, and maybe I'm just the worst person ever, but the second I heard this, I was like, holy shit! I almost want to buy Overwatch for PlayStation now, because oh my god, you would just destroy people. Oh god. I touched on this briefly way back like a year ago when Overwatch first came out, but I remember going into my old roommate's room so he could show me like his play in Overwatch on PS4, and I was shocked at how bad players are in comparison. And and not necessarily that players are bad, but that their control method is so inferior that like they just can't pull anything off. Like things that I consider to be basic were not being done by like anyone. They're not like checking their corners. They're not like, and probably because it takes time on a controller. You're using analog sticks. You can't just like check done, back to aiming again. Check done, back to aiming again, you know?
So my only thought here is I bet if you look at the top ranked players, like they're all using mouse and keyboard. No matter what.
Yeah, a lot of them I'm sure are. I don't know about all of them, but I bet a lot of them are.
I mean, can a guy with a controller actually compete with the mouse and keyboard crowd?
It's possible. I don't know of any, but it's certainly possible. I mean, it also, depends on the genre, because, like, you know, if you have it varies, because then this kind of gets into a bigger question about peripherals. Do you think fight sticks should be allowed in fighting games?
This is a terrible question, but what is that?
Fight sticks are
if you go to an arcade And you play an arcade fighting game?
Yeah,
Those are fight sticks.
they're the portable, like, USB or, like, controller port pluggable versions of those that are just, like, a flat tabletop with, like, buttons, like on an arcade
I didn't
machine.
even know you could buy that. And granted,
The things that are in the fighting game tournaments.
right.
them.
I mean, I know what it is in an arcade, I guess. I didn't realize you could put that in your house, but
We got to get you to watch a fighting game tournament, man. Come on now.
I'm surprised you didn't know about that one.
Anyways,
Well,
who cares? Like, anyways, point being, do you think those are unfair? You could argue that those are better, that they give you a more marked
are
advantage.
you that much better?
A lot of people would argue yes,
Oh yeah, dude,
significantly
you can
so.
like the roll combos where you got to roll the stick. Like,
Yeah. And not to mention, I mean, really, where do we draw the line? Brandon has a better mouse and keyboard than I do.
I think if you can play competitively, it doesn't shock me that the person with like the largest bankroll is going to win.
It's not just that. It's not about the bankroll. I'm asking, like, what do you think is a reasonable line to draw for peripherals? Should fight sticks be allowed? Should better mice and keyboards be allowed? Or should everything be like rally car racing?
I think it should be, as long as you don't have an automated component, as in like something that hit a button for you.
You mean like almost all mice and keyboards have macro buttons?
Yeah, you got to remember, I have like
Brandon has 6 programmable macros, I think, on his keyboard, and I think, 4 or 5 buttons on your mouse?
Depends on the mouse. Like, I have like 12 on my freaking G502, and then I have like
and then in
10
addition to
on
that,
my freaking wireless.
And in addition to that, he also has plug-and-play swap between hardwired and wireless, as well as adjustable weights to put inside of the mouse.
Yeah.
And I think he can change his scroll sensitivity.
Yep. I can change my sensitivity. I can change my not scroll, but my DPI sensitivity on the fly. Like, I will be playing Overwatch matches, and if I'm in scope, I literally push a button and I can drop my DPI down instantaneously.
Which I can do it too, but Brandon can go up or down independently with different buttons. I can only scroll forward. And I have 4 settings.
Yeah. When I play Titanfall, like, I have my right behind my scroll button, I have 2 buttons that automatically raise to preset DPIs depending on the gun that I'm using.
Exactly. And so, do you think that? I mean, is that cheating? Is that unfair? Is that the point at which?
Let me answer it this way: like, what is allowed if money is on the table? Like, if you can actually win cold hard cash.
Well, I mean, I don't even know, but I don't know how that's relevant because that's not what we're talking about.
If we're talking about cold hard cash, like,
what we're talking about though isn't professional play. What we're talking about is fairness. We're not even talking about what is legal, like for tournament play or something like that. It's the question is like, do you think it's unfair if Brandon was playing against you in Overwatch with an Xbox Elite controller? Would you feel like he was cheating or like he was not a fair match?
In comparison to you playing on
because
console,
he does have a better input method than you significantly with that, especially when you consider the face button switches.
Yeah, so I guess I can answer now. Like, no, I would not think so because that's a standardized piece of equipment.
But it's not. That's the thing. The Xbox Elite controller allows you to remap buttons to triggers.
Yeah.
Which means that I can jump, reload, and shoot without taking either of my thumbs off of the thumbstick.
Yeah, it means he can do things you could never dream of, like being able to jump and look at the same time.
I think it's completely fair because I know where you bought that at what price point, and I could get the exact same thing.
Same goes for the mouse and keyboard.
The same goes for the mouse and keyboard. Henry's the one that suggested the mouse to me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, how is that any different from saying you are perfectly capable of buying a mouse and keyboard?
Because there's infinitely more of that equipment.
Of what? Mice and keyboards?
Yeah, yes.
What?
Exactly.
There's more of it? Okay, so if I use a Mad Catz controller, is it still okay? Like if I use a third-party controller, there's a ton of third-party controllers for consoles.
Yeah, there's a ton of third-party components for consoles in general. Like you said, the mouse and keyboard.
If somebody switches out their internal drive for an SSD and it gives them 1 frame rate a second better, my point is everybody has variable setups. You know?
Look at CS:GO. Like if Henry's playing on his potato screens. Your screens are potatoes.
Oh my God, are they ever? One of them has an iPhone 4 dock built into it.
Yeah, and I'm playing on the screens I want to buy, which are 144 hertz, 1 millisecond refresh.
Take it easy.
Yeah, all these bells and whistles that basically allow me to see 3 times as fast as what he'll ever see on
exactly.
the
What about that? He has 2 to 3 times the frames to respond that I do in a game. Anyways,
means, yeah.
Or how about this, Tom? A more relevant example for you. Do you think it'd be fair if somebody on a Xbox One, what is it, the Scorpio or whatever? Do you think it'd be fair if someone with the better Xbox was playing against someone with the worse Xbox?
This is actually
the game may not run the exact same.
This is actually a Battlefield 1 reference. That was one of the major initial issues that they were talking about.
I didn't know that, actually, but sure.
Yeah, like they were talking like, well, between the PS4 Pro and the PlayStation, you can get significantly higher rates on the Pro than you can get on the standard PS4, and they're both in the same server pool.
I guess
so one group of people, this is one of the fears that they were talking about by having the split console in this, the split generations per se.
Exactly.
It's like you're just running better hardware and you have better capabilities because it just outperforms.
I mean, I definitely get it, and to some extent I'm playing devil's advocate here because, like, I think if I was a console-exclusive gamer and I wasn't interested, I, like Tom, just wasn't into the idea of mouse and keyboard, then I probably would be frustrated too. But I, like Tom, would probably recognize it's a mostly selfish frustration.
Well, and that it can't be regulated or whatever.
Well, I mean, even if it could, should it be? Let's say that in the best-case scenario, they regulate it and only, 10% of disabled gamers who could play before can't now. It's still not worth it.
Exactly, and that's really what it comes down to.
So, I don't know. I think that the big thing here to focus on is probably less what we mostly talked about, which is what is and isn't fair, even though that's what most of the debate is about. I think the main thing to keep in mind is that while you may be concerned about how fair this multiplayer match is, someone else may just desperately want to be able to play the game.
Yeah,
and it's a tough pill at some point because yes, mouse and keyboard is definitively better than using a controller because you can be if you have two people, one really good at PC and mouse and one really good at a controller. Odds are the odds are still stacked in the favor of the keyboard and mouse user. But then again, you also have people who are kind of like okay with a keyboard and mouse, and people who are really good with a controller. Like, I'm better with a controller than I am with a keyboard and mouse.
Or maybe you're just bad at the game and they're really good.
There's a lot of things that go through.
Yeah, it's almost too complicated to even go into. So I think I'm going to cut this one so we can move on because we have a couple more news stories. But yeah, definitely an interesting debate, and we'll be following it if any big moves are made by any of the major console developers. However, one other thing I wanted to talk about Overwatch related is Blizzard has announced that World of Warcraft Gold can now be used to get Battle.net credit, which can then be used to purchase Hearthstone packs, Overwatch loot kits, and I think even Heroes of the Storm champions. So yeah, this is pretty interesting. I don't know. You guys may not be as familiar with this as I am, but about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, Blizzard finally decided to once and for all deal with their Chinese gold farming problem. And the way they did that was by basically saying, why are we letting them make money on gold they're farming when we could be making money on it? So instead, what they've done now is they've created an in-game item in WoW called a game time token. And I think it's currently valued at around 64,000 gold. And what it is you can pay that amount of gold in-game, and it'll give you a token that's worth another month of subscription to Warcraft. Which is kind of cool if you're, a kid with a lot of time but not a lot of money. And it's also nice for Blizzard because it takes that farmed gold out of the economy, so it does not drive prices in any direction. That said, they're now giving an additional option. Instead of trading in for that prepaid game token, you can now trade it for these credits. And the credits are great because, they can be used in multiple other games. One other thing worth mentioning is that there's actually two sides to this game time thing, which is also that people who have more money than time to play the game can also purchase these game time in-game items for real money and then sell them on the auction house for that 64,000 gold. So if you're like, a 50-year-old dude who works 8 hours a day, 8 hours a day, say like 12 hours a day, and you have no free time, but you really like playing the game, you can try and catch up to people who are farming all day by just spending, $15 of real life money, which is probably honestly more valuable than 64,000 gold. But yeah, it's interesting and it's kind of cool. I think it's a great way to kind of continue this cross-platform marketing that Blizzard does with all their different games, or cross-game marketing where, this week if you play a game of Heroes of the Storm, you'll get a custom, Zarya skin or whatever, that kind of stuff. I really like that, those things, and I think that they've done a pretty good job of really encouraging people to jump between the different Battle.net stuff. If you're not playing one Blizzard game, hopefully you're playing another. Or you're like Tom and you're playing two at once. Hey,
it happens.
Hey, no, exactly. I've been in a position where I was playing Hearthstone, Diablo 3, World of Warcraft, and also Dota, like all not simultaneously, but all in the same, like I was playing them all consistently week after week, just switching between them.
Yeah, no, and this is what it's going to force someone like me to buy a PC and play Heroes. That's what's going to happen.
No kidding.
I'm going to play with a controller, though.
Yeah, there you go. And just to be clear before we move past this, because I mentioned it, but I think I was talking over Brandon at the time. When we say that mouse and keyboard are objectively better than controllers, we're only talking about for first-person shooters and maybe one or two other game types like strategy games. There are definitely a lot of games that are actually better served on a controller, like a lot of, third-person games, third-person shooters, I think. Well, maybe not third-person shooters, but certainly third-person like adventure games, as well as fighting games, as well as racing games. There's a lot of stuff that probably plays better with a controller because they have the adjustable input levels. It's not just like W, you're either going forward or you're not. You can sort of just barely move the analog stick and kind of ease things. It allows a little bit more fine control. So just to be clear, we don't just hate on controllers on this show. We're just making a point specifically about the Overwatch case.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Moving along, though, we had another little batch of news stories, including one from last week that I wasn't going to cover, but has become extra topical. These are stories all around Denuvo, everybody's favorite DRM company. So these are the guys who famously have been putting out DRM that's just foiling pirates for months at a time. I think Mad Max, among others, it took it 6 months or something for pirates to be able to crack it, which is pretty damn good. And unfortunately, they've been having a bit of a rough fortnight here. Last week, it came out that Resident Evil 7 was the fastest cracked Denuvo protected game of all time. It took I think it was 3 or 4 days, which kind of shows that the Denuvo DRM system has been pretty thoroughly disassembled and reassembled by crackers now, to the point where they're not really that it's not really nearly as troublesome as it used to be. But it also kind of decreases the value of the DRM company, because why would you want to purchase DRM that's only going to guard 4 days worth of sales? Now, those may be the 4 most important days, which actually is what was said by, I believe, the Resident Evil guys. But still, to me, that seems like diminishing returns. I have to wonder how much they paid for the service.
I mean, what's the solution here for them, though? I'm assuming
for
this
who?
Hurts for the developers or publishers.
I mean, you could go CG Projekt Red style and just not have DRM, because it actually doesn't hugely affect sales in all cases by being really consumer friendly. You can encourage a lack of piracy like Stardew Valley did by just producing an extremely polished product, and word of mouth causes people to talk other people into buying it. You can also do always online connectivity, which a lot of people balk at, but is getting more and more acceptable as the years go on, and more people have access to internet wherever they are. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can do it. You could use certain kinds of login tokens and stuff, but point being, it's kind of a give or take, because there's also you also have outraged customers. Denuvo, remember, was also the DRM that was rumored to have broken a lot of games that were legally purchased. I think that the most famous one was probably not Arkham Knight. I think it was Assassin's Creed 2, one of the Assassin's Creed games, maybe Syndicate or Black Flag. One of them had really bad DRM that was actually causing problems and crashes for players who had purchased it legally, and that's where you really have to wonder about how worth it is,
I think Denuvo's probably in trouble, right? I mean, like,
Well,
they're not doing their job.
you'll be finding out here soon enough. They claim that it's fine, and my understanding is that they only have to pay for the service as long as they're actually using it. So once it's been cracked, the developers aren't continuing to pay for it or anything. But yeah, Denuvo may be looking over their shoulders a bit here, because our next news story is that the Denuvo website had a bunch of unprotected pages on their website that people were accessing. And they went ahead and got access to several private company emails, as well as private correspondence from just end users and stuff, including some real gems of gamers just cursing them out for producing DRM, and also developers, inquiring about about the services. I think probably the most relevant leak was they had the actual email request from the Resident Evil 7 developers asking who they could talk to about putting Denuvo in the game. But, yeah, when you are a DRM / like, security type company, maybe make sure that you don't shit where you eat.
Yeah, this is... They're in trouble.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty embarrassing. I don't know. If I was them, I'd be like, ooh. But
is this seen as generally good for the game industry that this is happening, or do you think that this is like that people are hacking this and essentially taking down this company?
No, I don't think so. I think that there's very mixed opinions to this day about piracy, because there's gray areas of piracy, like countries where games are not available, or countries where games are crazy prohibitively expensive, or I think there are some legal arguments that are kind of gray areas for justifying, or I don't know about legal arguments, but emotional arguments at least, that I could give somebody the benefit of the doubt personally. But I think overall it's a very polarizing thing. I think most people agree that games shouldn't be pirated, but at the same time, most people also agree that if you are putting piracy protection in your game that is breaking it for legitimate users, then fuck you.
Yeah,
so
that makes complete sense.
It's really a catch-22 for developers and gamers alike, and so I think it's probably going to continue like this. I don't think DRM's going anywhere, but we'll see about Denuvo. It is worth noting, however, that there was one other Denuvo incident this week, although this one was not their fault. This one was actually the fault of the developers of that early access game we were talking about last week, the latest flavor of the month early access survival, Conan Exiles. The developers somehow managed to forget to put Denuvo in one of their updates this week, which is a pretty big deal for a couple of reasons. First up, it means there's a version of the game going around on the internet now with no DRM, which means it doesn't even need to be cracked, most likely. Like, it probably just needs a very basic crack to prevent it from connecting to the servers, and it works. So that's pretty bad. But on top of that, the way that Denuvo works, now that they have a copy without the DRM that they can compare against even future releases that do have the DRM, it makes it much, much easier for them to, like, uncrack or to re-crack it again, to remove that DRM, because they can basically compare the two and see what the DRM is doing and how it works with the game. It's pretty embarrassing. Like, that's pretty bad.
That's pretty serious, bro.
Well, especially if they pay for the service. That's pretty ridiculous.
Well, especially because it's their own fault. It's not that the service wasn't working for one release. It's that they just straight up didn't apply it to the version they were releasing.
Is this a small company that did this?
This is Funcom. No, this is a massive company.
Yeah, huh? That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's pretty brutal. Like, Funcom, they're big. They did they did that Conan Hyborian Adventures MMO back in like 08, 09. Which, yeah, I don't know. They seem to be... I don't know why they would choose them to make another Conan game, because that one did not do very well, but whatever. Anyways, though, I just thought this was really interesting. It's not Denuvo's fault. It's totally their bad, but for all it means anyways, considering the rest of the news from the last 2 weeks.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Anyways, though, moving on from DRM... we had a pretty big story that's kind of been developing over the last few weeks. As of December, GameStop they kind of rejiggered how they were doing one of their long-standing policies known as the Circle of Life. And the way the Circle of Life works is basically that GameStop employees are expected to try and push pre-orders and used games, as well as like getting people to do trade-ins and stuff, in order to make the stores more profitable, because the vast majority of GameStop's money, and their business model for that matter, is built around reselling pre-owned games. The Circle of Life in this case is supposed to be that a game does not come into the store, get sold to a customer, and that's it. It's game comes into the store, customer buys it, they take it home, play through it, come back, trade it in, now someone else can buy it used, and GameStop doesn't have to pay for a whole new copy. And then on top of that, maybe the guy who traded it in elected to take store credit and bought several other used games with that money, etc. Also, there's stuff like the Edge card and all of that. Mm-hmm. So, Sorry, go ahead.
Is this company struggling right now?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, they are alone basically in the market as far as like corporate video game stores go. But yes, brick and mortar game stores are doing worse and worse every year.
Because I wonder if it's just like they need some ploy, given that they have all these stores, to just assure profitability.
Maybe, but here's the thing. There's profitability, and then there's just being ridiculous. So apparently, and I don't want to really take a huge side on this. I'm mostly just here to comment on it, because a lot of employees have been coming out on both sides of this. I need to finish the original premise, though. So they've had this Circle of Life thing for years and years. However, in December, they redid it and turned it into a point-based score system, or a percentage-based score system, where each of 4 categories, pre-owned games, edge cards, pre-orders, and trade-ins, I think, are the 4 metrics, and each of them adds up to 25% of a total 100% rating. And your goal is to meet at least 70. People are getting reprimanded and stuff for getting anything lower than 75% on those scores. Here's the problem. This encourages customers to not always want to sell and stuff, to the point where there are a lot of anecdotes coming in from GameStop employees saying things like, when a big new game releases, I see if someone else will cover my shift who has who can afford to take a hit to their COL, because it's going to have a bunch of players who come in, buy games that are not pre-owned, and they may not have even pre-ordered. And here's the real problem with the system. It's not just that when you sell a pre-owned game, you get points. It's that these are a percentage of your overall transactions, which means you could sell 30 pre-owned games, then Resident Evil 7 comes out, and you sell 150 copies in one afternoon, and your scores are fucked for that week. So the problem is we're hearing increasing numbers of anecdotes of people basically saying, in my location, we have lied about what we had available in new. In my location, there was a sale going on where a game was available new for $30 or used for $50. We only told them about the $50 copy. We have cases of people saying that they are being fired because they're not meeting these goals, or people are saying that they are quitting because the stressful work environment that's being created. Several people likened it to basically a sales-based commissions job where they make $1 above minimum wage.
Yeah, no, and I read through these comments. It sounds like it often comes from a manager, someone higher up, saying, and one person said directed by higher management, and then kind of like an unspoken code of ethics. I mean, I don't know. This seems like something that's coming up from up high. This isn't a few rows.
Oh God, no. Yeah, this is totally this is like a bunch of shareholders saying we want higher profit margins, is what I see this as. And it's ridiculous because GameStop is always kind of, I mean, I want to be clear. A lot of people have come out in GameStop's defense, but at the same time, even current and former employees have, but it does look like the majority are responding negatively. But I just want to say, GameStop has always had a really shitty attitude about their employees, in my opinion. They've always had this weird, you're lucky that we let you work here because video games are fun, therefore you should be grateful for this job. Attitude that I don't think is right in a business setting. I don't think it's right at all. They are hiring the employee to do something they couldn't do. And whether or not the employee enjoys that thing should have no bearing on how much they get paid or whether or not, like, you know, they're respected as an employee.
Yeah, and the unfortunate truth is that for a lot of these people, I mean, I think they're going to have to find another way to. I'm not trying to be rude. Just like apply these skills they have, because I gotta imagine these companies are hurting, and then you have a bad, you know, work environment on top of it. I mean, it's just such a bad like place to be if you really like that job.
Yeah, but the problem is what other work environment, what other game store can you go to? What other store can you work for that's going to give you the opportunity to work exclusively with games?
Yeah, I mean, there's still value in someone being essentially a consultant and saying, hey, if you like this, you'll like this.
Exactly, but you know what the problem is when that person is saying, hey, if you like this game, I've got this pre-owned game that we may or may not have 50 copies of in the back that you'd really like. Yeah,
no, exactly. And to be fair...
when I was buying my 3DS... I had this is not a joke, and I'm not just saying this because this story has come up. When I was buying my 3DS, multiple points of purchase, I was told that I should buy used, and I was upsold on an edge card. I was very frustrated too, because one of the things I went out for specifically was Monster Hunter Generations, and I asked him if they had a copy, and he just rang me up for a used copy of it, and I was like, whoa. Do you guys have a new copy? I don't want it used. And he's like, oh, I don't think so. And I was like, I'm going to need you to check that for me. And he went back and got me a new copy. So let me just say, you know, maybe he genuinely didn't know what was in the back of the store. But let me just say, he then proceeded to get very short with me when I told him I didn't want an edge card. And I was buying a $186 used console. So I don't know what his beef was.
I mean, other than that, probably his job, like, kind of
Listen,
depends
though,
on
I
himself,
spent nearly $250 on used products that day and another $100 on new. What do they fucking care? And what is with the corporate idea of we're not going to appreciate that you sold a bunch of new product as well, even though we still make a profit on it?
Just the profit margin isn't as big.
Exactly. It just seems baffling to me. Brandon, I really want to hear from you on this because, well, you may have a unique perspective.
Yeah, I used to work at GameStop years ago. This is before they installed like the new system that they have in place now.
Did they still have the idea of Circle of Life, though?
The Circle of Life has always been around. Used games have always been a priority for GameStop. I mean,
sure.
It's not, and it goes the same for like a lot of chain bookstores that sell used books as well. I mean, It's not something unique there.
It's why they freaked out so badly and lobbied against Microsoft trying to break used games with the One.
Yeah, and that's why you have like the season pass and DLC copies and stuff. I know a lot of like
Warden's
Call of Duty
Keep.
games do that.
Or not Warden's Keep, I'm sorry, the Stone Prisoner.
Yeah. So it sucks because I worked there for a very short period of time, but in the time that I was there, it was literally you have to sell used games, you have to sell edge cards. Or power card. They were called like power cards initially.
Sure.
This is back when they were called like the power cards.
Yeah.
And
wasn't it Power Up or something?
Yeah, it was like power cards, and then you also need to get a Game Informer subscription out.
That's the other thing. Do edge cards even come with Game Informer subscriptions anymore? I don't think. Do they?
Yep.
Okay, because I was going to say, he never mentioned that. I may have even considered getting an edge card for a Game Informer subscription just because I like to collect them. But anyways, go on.
Yeah, so it's that was the initial thing, and I didn't really take anything from it because it was implied, but it made sense. Like the business model at this point, I had already done a research on like this system,
sure,
so it didn't bother me. But then again, at the same time, there was not a system in place where you constantly docked your workers for not like pulling off like a quota, because, and also I was working in an environment where like I was working in New York City at one of the major hubs in the Upper East Side, so like honestly. The people there are buying for their kids, and they don't really know what they want. Yeah. They just have a game title, so you can rig up a used copy, and they're like, "Oh, I'm spending less money. Here you go." With the exception of launch weeks.
I get that.
That's more or less it.
And I would imagine that like a city store would get a lot more used traffic too, because people can walk there instead of having to like bus in.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, and also like kids with their allowances, like even if you are living like in like one of the richer neighborhoods, like they want to get more.
Yeah, definitely.
So they'll drop they'll drop $60 on 2 or 3 games, rather than $60 on one at the end of the week.
I'll be honest. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I'll be honest. I probably should have gone with the used copies of the 360 games, the 3DS games, just because there's so little to a new copy of 3DS games. But I did actually get a couple of those perks that we mentioned. Specifically, I believe it was with Hyrule Warriors Legends, the Zelda Dynasty Warriors game. I got a free theme for my 3DS that makes it so that I have like a Zelda background and everything on the main homepage, and every time I open it from sleep mode, it makes the chest opening sound, which is kind of cute. Cool. It's like da-na-na-na. And then also I think they have also I got a free amiibo card with the new copy of Animal Crossing Welcome Amiibo, though I couldn't use it since I didn't have the peripheral. Yeah,
it's really interesting like how it shifted so sharply, because before I even worked at GameStop, like I used to have close relationships with people who did work in GameStop because I was a console plebe at the time.
Yeah.
Because I remember I would do deals where I would come in and buy bulk games. Like I wouldn't come in for 6 months. But
I've seen your collection, sure.
I would come in when my man was there, and I would buy 8 games, and he would basically his quota was done for the month.
There you go. Now, did you guys have quotas, though, back then? Because this is a new thing that was instituted in December of last year.
Oh, you have your sales quotas for the branch itself.
Oh, but they're
not
always
dished out to your employees.
Got it.
So you're like, okay, you should be selling an average of this, this, and this.
But it's
we want used games.
Is it like you need to meet 20% of all product that goes out the door is used? Or is it more like we just want to make this is our sales goal for used
games? When I was there, I can't confirm or deny that statement, but we're talking like 2013, 2014 at the time. So, like I said, the Circle of Life was instilled, but the branch did have like set sales goals.
What do you think about these new changes?
I think as a former employee are adding a new level of desperation.
How do you think you would react if you were working there now and they instituted all this stuff and started really riding you about hitting these goals?
Dude, I'd be out so fast.
Yeah, that seems like what a lot of people are doing, actually. Even a lot of management and stuff who have written in about this have said they have quit because of the Circle of Life program. It seems there's a real disconnect between the boots the boots on the ground in the stores and the people up in their ivory towers who are, making these decisions.
Well, here's where I get the dramatic irony from. Like, You're pushing used games, but people have treasure their money to an extent where they also want the new thing, and also you're selling the new thing with a bunch of other new ass shit. Like you get like Resident Evil, but then you get like a lithograph and all this other BS that people want, even if it's useless.
Well, and also like
so they're going to splurge on a new copy.
Plus, lest we forget, while on 3DS this isn't a concern because they're basically just little SD cards. Games you do sometimes buy used games with major problems, like the disc is scratched or it won't turn on.
They have plans in place for trade-ins.
Yeah, but that's a hassle, man. Yeah. Like that's like
it is a hassle. Yeah,
for me, it's such a pain in the ass to get out to GameStop that like when I had that wrong copy of Pokemon, I almost just kept it.
Yeah, just because like getting back there would be just a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
The ultimate problem comes into is you have like a brick and mortar store like that sells used copies. There is a definitive higher profit margin for selling used games over new games, right? Game producers know that, so they put stuff into games that make you want to buy them new, particularly multiplayer games like Call of Duty, like big sellers.
Yeah.
Like if you want to play Call of Duty for multiplayer, you buy a new copy.
Yeah.
Because you're going even if they sell it for like $20, you're going to be paying $30 for that like online pass.
Yeah.
I guarantee.
Exactly. Plus,
so you have like these guys at heads with each other, and then this is literally just a reaction to the fact that the producers in the brick and mortar store are having like this little competition with each other. Both are trying to make money, and ultimately the employee or the little guy gets shafted.
Exactly. Well, and the other thing, too, that I want to mention is that, like, this wouldn't be nearly as big of a problem if there was actual value still in buying used games from GameStop. But I'm seeing games that are a year old that are $54 new. Fuck you, GameStop.
Yeah, if you're going to charge
you set the used price. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah,
I could pay $6 more to get a brand new copy with whatever comes in the box and a manual and everything, or I could get your fucking Disc Doctor repaired used copy that some 4-year-old had. Nah.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, yeah, I'll buy a $15, $20 used game in a heartbeat. But at the same time, like if you're charging me upwards of $40 and even higher than that, then I'm kind of like, no, I'll just take the new copy. Because look, at the end of the day, like, people like unwrapping new crap.
Yeah, exactly. I can't make an unboxing video with a fucking used game. Come on.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. Like, at the time, I was fine for GameStop going in and buying stuff because I would always buy things new, but I would always go in and buy one or two things, or I'd buy one thing and maybe another used thing. So it was kind of like a level off deal. Like, they were still making a profit and they were getting their used sale in. But ultimately, now I would be like the worst nightmare customer, because I go in, I get new games unless it's an old game that I already sold and want back.
Me too. I'm the exact same way. Is like, if I have the option between new and used, 99% of the time I'm buying new. I really don't trust a guy who gets paid $1 above minimum wage to thoroughly repair a disc every single time when they're constantly being pushed for these sales numbers and stuff too. I mean, some of these anecdotes are saying they can't even unload new product in the back because they're being forced to sell.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It makes me wonder, in my search for 3DSs, how many stores did have new 3DSs, if any. Maybe none of them did. I'll be honest. I don't want to, cast a blanket of blame here, but none of the stores anywhere in the state had anything except for one that had one used one, and it's just like, When a $300 or when a $200 new purchase,
it almost feels like,
when a $200 new purchase sets you back 4 or 5 used games worth of percentage points, why would you sell it?
Exactly.
Anyways,
and it's a shame. It just sucks.
Exactly. Anyways, though, I'm going to wrap this up here because we are actually running a bit long. So, Brandon, if you had one last thing you wanted to throw in there, here, go for it.
Ultimately, when it comes to like this type of news article, I've seen like pretty prevailing views. Like, there's a lot of people saying that this is all BS. I have no problem offloading what I need to do and nobody yells at me. And then you have people who are, on the exact opposite side of the spectrum saying that everything's spot on about this and this is an issue. I would like to say that there's another avenue of thought. Like, you have to realize the geographic location of where you are and also like the geoeconomic income of like that area. If you're living like in downtown New York, where you're just getting a high output in general, like your profit margins aren't that much of an issue, whether you're selling new or used. But if you're like in West Jabib, Virginia, where you might have like 15, 20 dudes, like, and I know this because I used to live out there. I bought my first PS Vita in Virginia, actually. My first PlayStation Portable.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was talking to the dude out there, like, he, in a month, unless there was a new game coming out, like, you're not going to see over like 30 people in there during any like billing cycle.
Exactly.
So so what are you going to do with those 15 days? Like, you're going to sell the stuff that's going to give you a minimal profit margin because you're not making much off of a new copy because most of that's going back to the developer.
Well, and
or you're going to sell the used one that's already been through its life cycle where you're reaping most of the profits from it.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost all profit. Yeah.
So it's
especially
it's
if they trade you for in-store credit. Shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a complex problem that is not limited to just GameStop. Like, Book Off has the same issue.
Yeah,
so
except
much that they almost got banned in a country.
Yeah, except that it's probably a bigger deal with GameStop because they have a monopoly on brick and mortar game stores. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, it's a really interesting debate, and I'm going to be very interested to see how it continues. However, for now, we're going to bring this one to a close because there's just 2 things I wanted to touch on really quick. Well, actually, really only one that was worth mentioning, and that is that you guys should, if PS4 owners, rejoice. Upcoming update is going to be adding in external HDD support for your PlayStation 4, which is a pretty huge deal for all of those of you who are like, Jesus, my hard drive, I have to uninstall 2 things every time a new game comes out because they just keep getting bigger. Well, good news.
Up to 8 terabytes, I think it was, right?
Exactly. Good news, all of you out there. You don't necessarily have to uninstall Final Fantasy 15 in order to play literally anything else.
Oh, thank God. That also means that you don't have to splurge on the terabyte model. You can get the 500 gig and just buy an external hard drive for like a significantly cheaper amount of money at a different time and just have no more storage issues whatsoever for the rest of the life of that console.
No kidding. Oh, also, it's worth noting that the support will include USB 3.0 support, so you can get those sweet, sweet speeds for texture streaming.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that actually is going to pretty much do it for this week's episode. As I'm sure you guys can tell, this show has been procedurally generated. We hope you've enjoyed listening. Please be sure to check us out on Libsyn and iTunes, where you can leave a rating or review. Of course, you can always check out our other shows on the Cold Omaha Network at coldomaha.com. You can follow us on Twitter at PG_show, or if you're more the kind of guy who likes to have YouTube on in the background, you can also catch up on our past episodes of this, as well as my personal gaming videos on lesser.noob, that's N00B, on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for listening, and as always, game on.